Welcome back to another episode of the Outside 50 podcasts. I'm your host, Rick Shaibani, and alongside me is Wayne Kraska. G'day, Kraz.
Hey Rick, how you doing?
Pretty good, surviving, as they say. And yeah, obviously, the elephant in the room right now, a lot of crazy things happening in the world. And we've got some stuff to talk about a bit later on with what the AFL is doing, what the USAFL is doing vis-a-vis the coronavirus situation. But as of right now, we also have another guest with us today. It's Michael Ross from the San Diego Lions. How you doing, Mike?
Good, thanks, guys. Good to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you on. And starting off a little bit, as it turns out, you and Kraz have a little bit of a connection back in Australia. Both you guys spent some time in the Country Victoria leagues, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. We just found out that both originated from or spent some time in the same area about 3 hours southeast of Melbourne. So, yeah, it's a small world.
Yeah, for those of us, or for those of our listeners who are Yanks, it's the Gippsland region of Australia, or Victoria, I should say. It's, yeah, about 3 hours southeast of Melbourne, very rural area, and some really high quality footy played over there.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, so what brought you to the States originally, Mike, and how did you get involved with Lions?
Yeah, so back in 2012 was my first trip to America. My wife is American, which is a pretty common theme for most guys coming over here. And yeah, so she's from San Jose up in the Bay Area, and looked up online and linked up with the Metro team up there, the San Jose Hornets in the Golden Gate competition. Spent a summer with them. And since then, because I've been living and working more abroad, I was teaching English in Turkey for a long time. My involvement was sporadic over the following sort of years. We moved back pretty much full time in 2017, and pretty much since then I've been fully involved at the Lions. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you guys are kind of enjoying a bit of a resurgence right now, doing really great in Div 2, getting those participation rates boosted, and talk a little bit about how recruiting's been going and how you guys are having some success.
Yeah, so I mean, our club's one of the sort of the original clubs of the USAFL, goes back to I think '97. I think they played in the original series, and they did have some early success. But as you know, and I've heard a lot of people talk about the struggle of recruiting and player retention, and I suppose you know, people come and go, etc., etc. And we, numbers dwindled in sort of like post. Hang on, I did write these things down. Post 2010 to a point where I think in 2014 we didn't send a team to nationals, or San Diego didn't send a team to nationals. And since then, as you can see, we had a win in the Divi 4 a few years back, which I think was the seed for the sort of what's happening now. We're lucky enough that we've got a lot of good people involved in the club, and a lot more people have become more involved. So it takes a village to put the clubs together and to keep them sort of ongoing, not just, the day-to-day running, but if you want to be successful. And hopefully we've tapped into a few things that, we can share with others. But basically we've tried to create a space where we encourage, local guys to come along, which is half the battle. And the other half the battle is to get them repeating, coming back. So we try to create a welcoming environment, all skill levels, ages, abilities. Everybody's welcome. And then we try our hardest, with the social side of the game, to make sure those, those players stay around and, have a meaningful contribution to the Lions.
Yeah, that's great. Good on you.
Yeah, Michael, we have been chatting, and the opportunity to try and keep those retention rates on a level sort of playing field consistently for clubs is a real challenge. And I certainly remember San Diego being a very strong club I think they won the 2006 national championships, which were held in Las Vegas, and really had a really young crew then. And you know, every team
Yes.
seems to go through that. Hills and valleys. Well,
Mm,
not every team, but a lot of teams do. And you have a rotation of your board, and you have a rotation of your coach and
right.
the people they know, and it certainly causes some issues. And it's something we continue to address as clubs. And I think probably clubs need to probably collaborate a lot more on that, on how you continue to engage your players and their people that are around them in the social activities and in the smaller group settings to try and maybe form closer to what we know as club members of teams back in Australia, where it is a true community. And Rick can attest to that, having played in Australia in 2019. The community feel in clubs, especially country clubs in Australia, is so strong. It's unbelievable what those clubs can achieve together.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. In our case, one of my goals was to try and recreate to the best of our ability that sort of the cultural aspect of the club, So um, we've all there's a lot talked about. It's hard to get grounds, and we don't have our own clubhouse and the kitchen and all the facilities that we associate or take for granted back at home in Australia. That part of it's hard. But for example, we brought in at San Diego and I'm going to give a shameless plug to one of our sponsors here, Fifth Avenue Kitchen and Tap in Hillcrest. They've been fantastic for us. Now, most clubs, if not every club in the country, has probably got some affiliation with a local watering hole. And basically, what we brought in is a selection night. So, for those who don't know of how that works, and Rick, you can probably talk about this as well. On Thursday night after training, the players come in, they shower, meals are prepared, and the teams are announced and that type of thing. So it just gets everyone together. We do this every Thursday before an upcoming match on a Saturday, and you get the excitement from the players all congregated together in an off-field situation, and then wives and girlfriends, friends of the club, and we all work to support each other. The bar looks after us very well in terms of drinks and food, and we look after them by bringing in anywhere between 20 and 40 people on a Thursday evening when not much else is going on. So for that, it's been a real win-win for us.
Very cool.
Yeah, I can remember back in the days in Australia, Thursday nights were sometimes the biggest night of the week for many people,
Potentially, yes.
with those players getting together after they've been on the track for a week. Ones who are injured are wondering, is the coach going to pick me? Did I pass that fitness test and things like that? And maybe a new recruit comes in from another club. Where's he going to start? Is he going to start in the reserves, or are they going to put him straight into ones? And there was a real buzz on a Thursday night around clubs at all levels, really. And that's a great idea to introduce that when you do have a game. I haven't really heard of other clubs doing that, to tell you the truth, Michael. So that's pretty impressive. I like that idea.
Yeah, at the Dragons, we normally do that for like Western regionals or nationals, but not every week. So I know we're trying to emphasize more of like the social events and going out to the pub after training. So hopefully we can incorporate that a little bit this season as well.
Those type of things, because they're quite rare, they're only the two occasions that congregation will occur. It's sort of that less opportunity to interact with, for example, in the hotel, random patrons who go, "What the hell are you 20 people doing here?" So then you can get a conversation started, and who knows where that leads. We've actually had guys who have been drinking at the bar going, "What is this?" Seeing all the guys in the t-shirts and the extra, and then they go, "Oh, that's interesting." So it's hard to quantify the value in terms of recruiting, but it absolutely does not hurt. So anything that doesn't hurt, it's willing to give it a go. So, but we try to do it, and because in the competition here, it's not every week, so the problem at home is that people feel like they've got to come out every week, whereas here we've got a more sporadic season. There's usually at least a week off between games, so people aren't feeling I've got to go on Thursday night, and then they're more willing to come and participate.
Yeah, it's good in terms of like making sure players or coaches or whoever don't burn out, because obviously it's a long season. It's not a paid league. We're all doing this for fun. We're all doing this for the love of the game. So I think in terms of having a balance between the social side of footy and trainings and games, blending all that up and kind of making it the perfect storm of what this sport is supposed to be, whether it's here or anywhere else in the world. So
Exactly.
I reckon you got to find a balance, and it seems like you guys are doing pretty well. Now, turning the page a little bit, Mike, you guys had kind of a unique opportunity last year, or maybe it was the year before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously there's a very big military presence in San Diego, like with the Marines and the Navy, and you guys had an Australian Navy ship that was in the area, and you guys did a little scratch match with them, right?
Yeah, so the HMAS Brisbane, and this happens, I'm not sure how often this happens, but they often, for training, exercising purposes, I'm not exactly sure why, but yeah, they often dock in San Diego, and they reached out to us and said, we've got a bit of a team here, and we wondered if you would like to play us. And it worked out well for our schedule. We had a weekend open. I think it was like the last weekend in September, so it still gave us a 2-week break before Nationals. We played them actually under lights at a field in northern San Diego. So yeah, they came out and it was a good hit out. I think it's the first time a lot of these guys would have got to play against the full side of Australians. So some of them weren't as fit as they could be, but you could always tell that they knew the game. So playing against those type of guys, especially for our, more inexperienced, newer guys, was a fantastic experience.
Yeah, definitely a unique opportunity, that's for sure.
So that game being sort of like a friendly, was it really a friendly, or was there a little bit of howdy-dowdy?
I'm trying to think. It was flat out. So look, it wasn't, it wasn't, it was 18-18, or might have been 16-16. But when the guys were out there, there was no holding back. It was all done in good spirit. I don't think there was too much push and shove. But yeah, look, we were stoked to jump at the experience, and hopefully we can sort of do this more often. If boats come in, it's a good situation. We've been lucky enough to actually recruit a couple of guys from the military that are more permanently based here. I don't know if that's something we can possibly tap a little bit more frequently, but it's got to start somewhere. And I'm not sure every club has that opportunity, but it sort of worked out for us being in our geographical location. And it was good for us. It was the perfect hit out going into Nationals.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we all know that the USAFL season is a little on hold at the moment, but most teams there on the West Coast have put out their schedule, and you guys have the SoCal Cup that Rick has talked about quite a few times. Tell us a little bit about your schedule, and if you're playing anyone else a little unique this year than what you normally would.
Yeah, so like you said, the sort of the virus situation is daily evolving, but our schedule had come out in the last few weeks, and in collaboration with LA and OC, we sort of decided to either put on hold or scrap, sort of in the short term, the sort of the Metro season, which was the scaffold competition, Southern California League. It's basically the way it ended up was San Diego and Orange County would bring 2 teams, and LA would split into 3. So that's hard to do, and then that became hard to manage. So with what we decided was to expand the SoCal Cup, which is 18-a-side tournament style football, round robin, 2 games a day. And instead of having just the single round of that, we're going to do 2 rounds if we can get back to it. So that makes those football matches hopefully a bit more meaningful and a bit more competitive. For example, the situation we found last year, we had a lot of players, and fitting them into a 10-a-side is very difficult.
Yeah, and for those of our listeners who aren't aware, yeah, like Michael was saying, normally it's a best of 3 round robin. This time it's going to be a best of 6. Hopefully that still is a go. And for the record, we were planning on switching up the scrapping the Metro season, switching it up to where SoCal Cup was expanded even before all the virus stuff started
Right.
happening. So hopefully that goes well. I'm definitely stoked for it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
And so should be good. And yeah, in case anyone else isn't aware, the USAFL is like still monitoring the whole situation nationwide. Nationals is still a go as we speak. Regionals is still kind of on the bubble. They're going to give us a definitive answer by the 1st of May, right, Kraz?
Yeah, that's the plan at the moment, but we'll talk maybe a little bit further about that a little later in the show, because we had some other information that's come in overnight just before we've come on air. Michael, 2017 was a big year for the San Diego club hosting national championships. Now, I know you said you'd only just returned there not long prior. But the biggest tournament that the USAFL have ever held with running 6 fields. You guys were down there in Divi 3. I actually remember playing with you, playing against you. I believe I partnered the Atlanta team I was playing with at the time, partnered with Baton Rouge down in Divi 3.
Okay.
But how did that event maybe benefit the club, or what sort of stresses did it put on the club?
Look, to be honest, I'm not at that particular tournament. I was actually playing for Golden Gate in their second squad, which was in the same competition as the San Diego second squad. So I actually played against a lot of the old boys who'd sort of come out of retirement to play in that home tournament. So I'm not sure if that tournament, like how much exposure or how would I say, the exposure turned into people, asses on seats, basically. But we had a group of guys there in that Division 3 side who are still with us today. And in terms of them staying together, playing together and evolving to become a somewhat, in the sort of preceding years, some success. And success always brings people to you. It's easier to bring them to a winning side than it is to bring them to one that's not doing so well. And that's where we've stood from it. But I'm sure there was a huge benefit. I just don't know how to quantify it.
Right, because you said you moved down to San Diego like shortly after that, right?
Yeah, so I came back from Turkey in once school finished over there in I think it was July 1st, 2017, and we moved to our my mother-in-law's place while we got settled, which was up in San Jose, which I mentioned before.
Right.
And then we came down right at the start of 2018. So when I came back, I didn't really have a club, and because I'd been involved with both, I basically put out a call and if there was if there was a spot available. So yeah, but then after that, once we moved down to San Diego, didn't have to really worry about moving or anything like that. It was, so the last 2 years we've been all in at San Diego.
There you go. And looking ahead to the future, again, obviously,
yes,
health situation permitting, you guys are still planning on taking a full squad up to regionals in Denver and then to nationals, right?
Yes, we traditionally, or the last couple of years, we've struggled to get numbers, and we partnered with the Arizona Hawks, who have provided us with top-up players to fill out a list. But as anyone can know, it's very difficult to inject 9 players to a side and have the same success that you are used to. So up until that point, yeah. So hopefully this year, with the sort of, if the season, we're all talking in the sort of the hypothetical, if it goes ahead, but if it does go ahead in the near future and we do go, as Denver's a reasonably cheap flight from here, where some of the other venues are not so much. So hopefully we can attract a good squad. And because the Nationals, and you've mentioned this before, are basically in our backyard, only just up the road from us, that's basically, like you've said, Rick, it's like a home tournament, So, there'll be more resources, hopefully, to put towards some of the more traveling. So we've also got on our schedule a trip to play Golden Gate up in San Francisco, which, if it all goes ahead, will be a fantastic test of how fast we've come. If you have a look at the result that they gave us at last year's regionals.
There you go. Good stuff.
Yeah, so I suppose we should start to talk about a little bit what's happening not only around the country but in other parts of the world. The current state of the world is in a bit of turmoil, depending on what news service you look at. And, there's a lot of adjustments being made by just not only businesses but sporting organisations. Just prior to this recording of this podcast, we were able to watch a night or two of AFL football back in Australia on the Fox Sports Network. But what we've learnt since last night is that the AFL has decided to postpone their games now until at least the end of May. The USAFL have been in communication quite often with clubs in the last couple of weeks, and in fact, as a club president, I see emails from the USAFL management quite often, and they are at the moment advising all clubs to cancel training, postpone training, and currently games until further notice. I believe they have the same sort of idea that we'll look at things late in May, or maybe at the end of April. But no, we've had some pretty big publicity over the last couple of days. We've seen a lot of people pick up the broadcast of Fox Footy just through their Fox Sports One channel that they get. And former NFL player Pat McCaffrey tweeted out and was on his podcast talking about AFL, and got pretty excited and got quite a few people watching the game back in Australia.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, obviously the season's up in the air at the moment, and you would hope that if they had kept going, that more Americans would be able to tune in and be able to discover the same amazing sport that we play. So, hopefully that interest stays there in the future. But, unfortunately, it is what it is. And there was a golden opportunity. And unfortunately, it's kind of coming to a halt at the moment.
Yeah, I saw a few comments on Twitter. I've been following through a few threads, and there were a few that said that maybe a little disappointing that it's taken a world catastrophe to put USAFL and Aussie rules football on the map in Australia. But it is what it is, and these circumstances are unavoidable at the moment. But yeah, maybe when we pick the game up again, we'll hopefully feel the benefit of that. And if Fox pick up a few more games for their mainstream channels like they have over the weekend, we can get some better publicity than what we have had over the years. Football here in the US has been pretty much on cable. Aussie rules football from Australia, anyway, has been pretty much on cable for a long time. There's been a couple of shows, a couple of games on FS1 and FS2, but they're not channels that are generally watched by the general public. Back in the late 80s, I believe it was ESPN who showed highlights packages of the AFL at that time, or the VFL was probably at that time. And, a lot of the originators of the game here in the USAFL were ones who watched those games when they were in college. But since that time, it's been on cable pretty much all the time, and been difficult to market to the American sporting public, who are solidly entrenched in other professional sports here. The big sports like baseball, NFL, basketball, and obviously hockey as well. So
And of course, not many people are going to stay up till 4 a.m. to watch a sport halfway around the world. So that's also a big challenge. But yeah, as far as the USAFL is concerned, again, like you said, Kraz, it is what it is. The uncertainty sucks, but once the summer rolls around, hopefully we'll be in a better spot. And even if the season is abbreviated, which it could very easily be, I reckon we'll still have a pretty good hit out at regionals and nationals, and we'll keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully it all turns out reasonably okay.
yeah, it's certainly interesting. I guess there on the West Coast, you get games a little earlier than what we obviously do. I'm over here on the East Coast time zone, and the game last night that I was watching, Hawthorn Brisbane game, started at 12:30 in the morning. So finished up watching about three quarters of it, I think. But certainly a challenge, and you can see what some positive things hopefully come out of it, and some more following of the game. Curiosity kills the cat, as they say, and hopefully will benefit in the long term. But certainly short term, we have to go back to the drawing board and stay healthy and stay safe ourselves, and trying to get through this time. So with that, Michael, what is the short term here for the San Diego club? What have you got planned? Are you telling your players to stay safe and just self isolate through these times?
Yeah, we've pretty much been like that, for the last couple of weeks. We cancelled trainings a couple of weeks ago. Also, we've been having sort of some player-led get-togethers on weekends, just for a bit of a kick around. Nothing too strenuous, but sort of we've also put the word out to stop doing that. I was trying to keep the boys sharp. We've handed out some of our footballs to new players. Hopefully they can, keep some touch up while we're in hiatus. Apart from that, when everyone's out in the sort of same boat, I basically just thought we can't really do anything in terms of get-togethers or training or anything. So it'd be a good opportunity, as I said to you, to talk to guys like you and blow up the clubs and blow up the league and the game itself. Talking's about all we can do at the moment.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's kind of where we're at too in LA. We have like a group chat on WhatsApp, and our coach, Jace Cornish, he hit us all up a few days ago, and he was just reminding us, hey, you can still get in 20 minutes of running per day. You can still have a kick to kick at the park. You can still, go outdoors and be active. And again, it sucks that we don't really know what's going to happen at the moment, but we still need to keep our mind and our bodies sharp. I actually went on. I was with a few friends of mine. Actually went on like a 7-mile hike yesterday in the mountains above Malibu, and that was really fun. Really therapeutic. And I reckon as long as we're staying outdoors, staying active as much as we conceivably can, I reckon we'll be fine.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, everyone's pretty much in the same boat now in terms of that. We've spoken. We're probably going to have you mentioned John Carpenter before. He's hit me up. We're going to probably have some sort of board club Skype type situation, just to talk through any issues and to see. if there is, if and what we can do in terms of, you know, making the most of this hiatus. And like I said to him when I was saying, hey, I'm interested in going on a podcast, what do you think? He was all about it, you know, anything to get us more out there and the game in general. That's what we're all about. So, yeah, I encourage all the clubs to hit the boys up and get on here and spread the word.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you coming on. And like we've said quite a few times before, if there's any clubs around the country who want to get on and chat, because basically that's all we can do these days. And keeping the players engaged and tied together is, you know, going to be a challenge through these times where we all have to train or practice on our own. I would mention that some clubs, and I know the Atlanta club this afternoon, are having a virtual happy hour where there's a platform that apparently players will be able to join and have a drink while they're sitting on the couch and talk some footy together, and just to do those sort of creative things and you know, keep people together and talk to people. And I think this is the opportunity we have these days to you know, to strengthen some of those relationships and those bonds within our clubs and help each other out.
You're exactly right, Kraz. And as cliche as it might sound, you know, we'll get through this. We'll be a stronger and, you know, more positive footy community, whether it's our respective clubs or just nationwide, as you know, a bunch of a bunch of misfits playing, you know, a foreign sport in the U.S. So, you know, I think once we do get the season back, once we do, you know, kind of have a chance to finally get back out on the ground, you know, it'll be nothing but positive.
So, Michael, we everyone knows everyone's on social media these days, probably more so than ever. Where can we find the San Diego Lions, and how do they contact you, through the website or Facebook, or what is the preferred method?
Yeah, we've got a pretty nice website. I think it just got updated last year. So sandiegolions.com, all lowercase. So we've made it a sort of a priority that anyone who reaches out to us to get back as soon as possible. That being like with a 24-hour limit. We find that if people reach out, even if it's a vague sort of interest, the conversion rate is much better if you're straight back onto them. Shows you're interested and that they matter. So I believe we've done a really good job. Our club has made, you know, like I said, a welcoming space. We've got guys who've walked into our club mid-30s, never heard of it before, no relationship to the game. And if you talk to them now, they said, I can't believe I didn't do this earlier. So, yeah, it's hard to get them, but then we've got to make sure we convert and keep them together. So, yeah, that's the challenge, I suppose. And now that we're all stuck in the virtual realm, I suppose it's a good time to, you know, for people and clubs to exchange ideas, you know, share what, you know, find out what's working elsewhere and see if they can apply it to their situation. Because, you know, without each other, in terms of the other teams, the other clubs doing well, you know, we can't, what's the point of succeeding in that situation? So, yeah, let's all get together, talk about the issues that face the club on platforms like this. We can come together and, yeah, come up with something that's good for the game.
Yeah, as long as you know, Rick and I are really enjoying the opportunity to speak to people all the way around the country about footy, but you know, we've also become quite passionate about helping teams, you know, plan and communicate with each other, collaborate, get ideas, and you can look back or listen back, I should say, through all our podcasts, and we have a variety of people, from people starting first clubs to people who have been in clubs for 5 or 10 years, and people who have moved from club to club. So there are different ideas out there, and I'm sure what you've actually said even today, Michael, will help maybe a couple of clubs around the country if they have a listen in about some of the ideas that you've got, and you know, some of the challenges you've faced. I think we all nod our head about, you know, the retention and the community side of a club to trying to improve those sorts of things. But you if, like I said before, if clubs are out there and they want to get on and chat, we'll talk about controversial stuff as well if you want to. So if you want to hit us up, just email us at usfootynews@gmail.com. So, Michael, it's been a pleasure having you on here. We've really enjoyed it. We're in a holding pattern, as we keep saying, but we'll get back there, and we'll look forward to chatting again sometime in the future, and probably seeing you out there in outside of LA in October.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And look, anyone in the one more shameless plug, if anyone's looking for once the lockdown's finished, if you're interested, San Diego Lions, very welcoming club. Most clubs will be that way, I'm pretty certain. Yeah, we take everybody. Come down to San Diego. Thanks, guys, for having us on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers, Mike. See you soon.
Good on you, boys.
Outside 50 is brought to you with the help of Play Aussie USA. Play Aussie is the only place in the USA you can buy the famous Sharon football, a proud sponsor of the USAFL. Visit them at playaussie.com.